Okay, recording. All right,
Okay.
so let's begin with the first lesson plan summary, and then I think we can also talk briefly about materials required for the lesson and any
Okay.
additional resources that I planned for. So
Okay.
to begin, um, this lesson will require my Oxford Discovery book set, my reader,
Okay.
my
hmm
phonics
hmm
book, and then I do plan to have some games during the course of the class. So I'll be using
Okay.
dice, a deck of
Okay.
cards, and then obviously markers and the whiteboard. And finally, a small
Okay.
stereo speaker, which contains
hmm
content songs and content
Okay.
audio files, which is basically a professional from the Oxford publishers reading some of each page's material.
Okay. Okay.
And for this lesson, I didn't plan for additional resources, uh,
Okay.
but there were elaboration discussion questions that I had prepared ahead of time. And
Okay.
the students do have notebooks where I can take, for example, an advanced student who finished his or her workbook very quickly. I can have them do some
hmm
additional notebook work in there.
Okay. Okay. And that's one thing I thought, that was really good. And I'm hoping I'm speaking to the right thing where you were talking about the doing the pronunciation with the students and then just having that activity where they can go because a lot of times you're going to have the behavior problems because they just don't have anything to do,
Mm-hmm.
they get done too quickly or they do it quickly. So I thought that was really that was good that you've got something prepared and planned for the kids that get it and they're just going to kind of go be sitting down. So
Yeah,
yeah. All
they
right.
they will get on me very quickly if if they don't have a roster
Yes.
of things to do. So
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
at least in this lesson plan, that worked out pretty well.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
any any comments or feedback on different parts of the lesson plan? You can go
I
beyond
guess,
just the
yeah, just
resources
a,
here.
sure. Just a couple, and again, I'm assuming with the diversity and the differentiation, these are these hypotheticals, the special needs and the ADHD, are
Very,
these
very
are actually
literal. Very literal. I
okay,
have one of
okay,
borderline 2 ADHD, but really very realistically one special
oh,
needs,
it is
one
okay.
ADHD. Yeah.
Okay, just I guess because I also have one, and just a thought because I thought I really liked the gentle repetition and the reminders and kind of having the desk clear and all that. One thing that might just a suggestion is with the seating. Like I noticed in the video, they were sitting down. I have one. I let him stand up because he really struggles with sitting, but there's the boundary. So the boundary is you can stand up and take the test, you can stand up and do what you need to do, but you can't touch. Here's your box. You cannot go outside of the box. And so just maybe a suggestion. I don't know if that would help or not. If this child struggles sitting still and you have to move everything, maybe even just letting them stand up. While they're doing the test, just kind of a flexible seating thing, and that's kind of what I do with mine. If you need to sit on the floor, I'm fine with that. Opposed to having them, mine just cannot sit still. He is not able to sit still. So
That's
one thought.
that's fantastic. Later on, I'll be bringing up a question that I had
Oh, okay,
pertaining
okay,
to this student and what a good protocol you might have suggested for. And it sounds like you
okay.
just already answered it. So that's
Oh,
spot
okay,
on. Thank you
okay.
for that.
Great. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because I can relate. It's funny, and we're not there yet, but just watching your video, kids are so universal. They're just so universal in how they are. I mean, yes, there's some different. differences, but for the most part. And then length of time like spent on for your ADHD student, are you able to modify, like say where the other kids may be able to work for a longer period of time? Can you give them breaks? Are you able to do that? Or because like here if they're identified, we can modify. We can legally modify and do that. Are you able to do that?
We are able to basically provide accommodations
Okay.
virtually as much as they need, really, because it's a private company here.
Okay.
So
got you.
And we have a 15-minute break already designed into the middle of the lesson, and then there's usually going to be some downtime, like a couple minutes downtime between the ending of each activity and the beginning of the next. As far as providing it when he needs it, that's something that's a worthwhile thing that I could look into, talk to my supervisor there at school about, and see what kind of green lights we can have in that regard.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that was it. And then I guess the other, with the big ideas, the forest and the food, are those two different lessons? Like I was just like with the connection, what was the connection with that?
Good question. So the food, everything in this lesson plan pertaining to food, cooking, like pots and pans and such.
Right.
Oh, in the conversation pertaining to cooking, that's all part of the student book and the student book's vocab and the student book's discussion questions. And then there's really just a pretty quick break between those. And suddenly we move on to the reader. And the reader is, right now, it's on forests. So there's going to be forest-related vocabulary and animals.
So two different lessons. There's not a connection. You're going to transition into a new lesson.
Yeah. And actually, on that same vein, the phonics it's an entire different book too. So oftentimes the vocabulary that they're speaking for the phonics lesson is an entirely different one.
Okay.
Yeah, good question. All right, so every lesson, every class, there's technically about 3 entirely separate lessons.
Oh, wow. Okay. So yeah, you can't even really do a prior connection or prior knowledge because they're totally two different subjects or two different lessons. Okay.
Every once in a while I get lucky and some of the stuff overlaps, so I can do pre-assessment there or, make sure they're making connections if they exist.
Right.
I think something that I would like to look into doing for the next lesson is myself just thinking of some discussion questions that I can make a connection there for them. Something that they feel like they can pull over and apply to different books, because I mean when with this many books that I'm doing and a 2.5-hour lesson, I would hope that I can make some of it more interdisciplinary.
Absolutely. Yeah, that would be outstanding. And then I guess the last thing, the teaching strategies for the 21st century knowledge and skills. I'm not really sure, because you had filled out all of them, but they're on these 3. Did you I guess I don't know what technology you would really be using or under the teaching strategies.
Yeah. So this is kind of I think it's like a Teach Now thing. Some of the terms I'm using there are just stuff that we've talked about, that we've discussed in our Teach Now cohort. Yeah, so like think, pair, share, for instance, is an activity. Yes. Oh, you know that one. Okay. So
yes.
Are you referring more specifically to not having tech in this one?
Yeah. I think so. That's kind of where I'm looking at, like the Web 2.0 activities, the technology. So yeah, I guess I was just, there wasn't anything there, and so I was just like, maybe he's not using maybe technology, I don't know, like the Promethean boards or the, you know, whatever, iPads or, so yeah, maybe you just it didn't pertain to it.
So the things that happen routinely at the start of every 3 units is a big question lesson, and the big question lesson has a video, so we set up a projector. I don't have any smart boards in there. I don't have a computer. I actually don't even have Wi-Fi, and I have I only have a gig of data on my cell phone, so it gets used up very quickly.
Right.
So that's kind of a weak point, actually, is I really don't have a lot of tech implementation. On a daily basis, the only thing I have is that stereo speaker. And that's actually pretty useful, but it's very limited. I can't just bring up a video really quickly or anything like that.
Absolutely understand. Okay, and you make it work, so that's fine. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Okay.
But on that same
that's
vein,
really it.
On that same vein, since I don't have a sort of like instantaneous ability to bring up things on the internet, for instance, over time I would like to bring in more secondary resources of my own making, and whether they just be like diagrams that I found or some neat pictures pertaining to a topic. They will be static. They're not as fun as videos, but it's something that I can bring in there each day.
Yeah, just as a supplement or extra resource. Yeah, great. Yeah.
Okay,
that's the only feedback I had with the lesson plan.
That's all fantastic. Thank you for your feedback there. I think that concludes our second meeting, summarizing the lesson plan, and we discussed some materials. Thank you for your feedback.